Today I am going to spill some tea, drop some names, and share some gems, all while trying to not get fired along the way. My name is Chelsea Robson, and I write custom songs about your original love story. But when I'm not doing that, I have been able to work backstage at the Grammys, Latin Grammys, AMAs, and the Emmys over the last couple of years. For legal purposes, I do not work directly for any of these companies. I am a private contractor. All of my views are my own, and I do not speak for anyone but myself. Everything that I say today is my opinion and for entertainment purposes only. If my boss ever sees this, please don't fire me, and please don't sue me. I really like my job. When a big show has a lot of talent that's going to be performing, there's a lot of details that go into making sure that one of those performers is able to get from their hotel to the venue, from the venue to the red carpet, from the red carpet to the stage, from the stage back to their limo, and then back home. And then to make sure that any issues are resolved quickly, the showrunner may hire somebody like myself to stick with that performer to make sure that through every transition, everything goes seamlessly. Throughout this video, there's going to be plenty of name dropping because let's be honest, that's why you clicked it. You want the tea. But instead of focusing on the gossip, I am going to shine light on 6 of the biggest lessons that I have learned from the coolest people in the world of music about how to be more confident and what it really means to be a class act.
Okay friends, today is the day. We got the Grammys and I'm super excited. I'm in LA. I'm about to head down to the Staples Center. I'm not going to be able to Insta story or do any type of posting throughout the day. However, I will be telling lots of stories after the whole thing. If they do happen to put me with somebody who is like red carpet worthy, then I will be walking the red carpet with them. So I would just watch the red carpet for me just in case. That'd be cool. Tape it for me, seriously.
I started doing this 8 years ago, and my very first show was the Latin Grammys, which is also my favorite show of all of them. That specific year, they brought in Roberto Carlos. He is, the king of Brazilian music, and really just well known throughout South America. Because he was the one being honored at the Person of the Year award, they were also bringing in many other Brazilians and needed other Portuguese speakers to be able to walk with them. Rotoscopers fans will know my friend Morgan, who was on an email list. She got an email, sent it to me, and I submitted, and they accepted, and I was off to Vegas, which really was the start of something beautiful. I've been very fortunate to be able to work at events like this and to be able to have a deeper understanding of how the red carpet works from all angles. And I'm still just making it up as I go along. But I think that it's what everybody does. And that is the very first lesson that I'm going to take away from this, is that in the end, everybody is there just doing a job. You should not be intimidated when you go into a new situation because everybody is in a new situation. And if you come in with the idea that everybody is higher, better, faster, and more something than you, then they're going to see you that way. And ain't nobody want to be in the fan zone. The fan zone, for anybody who doesn't know, if you're dating and you hear the word the friend zone, that means that you're banished to the Isle of Friendship. There's never going to be any kind of increase in a romantic relationship. Well, when you're dealing with people in the entertainment industry, you're never going to get to the friend zone if you end up putting yourself in the fan zone. It's just never going to happen. And this really goes for any job that you go into. If you come into a new situation and you are just looking at people as so much higher, better, faster than you are, shark's going to smell blood. You're going to get eaten alive. Stay out of the fan zone. All that being said, I feel like I really need to tell you about my Garth Brooks story. It was my second event. So it was in Vegas at the Wynn, and I'm walking around the very back of the stage to go meet my artist on the opposite side of where everybody else was. There was only one other person standing in the wings, and it was Garth Brooks. Now, if it were me and I were about to go on stage, I would be like secluding myself. I would be in a corner, and I would just kind of like zone in and practice by myself. That's what I would do, but not Garth. Garth, you see, he stopped what he was doing. He looked directly at me, and then he tipped his hat to me. I love Garth. He's so great. But I think that is even more of a lesson than anything else because there were a lot of other stars there, even like myself. I would have zoned everyone else out and just like focused on me. But Garth is one of those stars that despite the fact that he had so much star power. He is one of the most humble and most just gentlemanly types that I have ever come across in the music industry. I love Garth. I'd like to think that he understands that all people and all jobs have a purpose and are therefore on the same level as the other, because these events would not work and would have no purpose if not for all four of the categories, meaning the staff, the talent, the press, and the consumer. A red carpet really only has one purpose, and that is to create FOMO so that you and I, as consumers, are willing to give our attention and dollars even to the people who are creating this event. That's it! I'm an avid capitalist, so this doesn't bother me at all. Actually, I like it because it means that we as consumers are actually the ones calling the shots, because we're the ones being out there like, dance, monkey! And we dance. If the consumers don't show up, none of these people have jobs. But it's when somebody forgets that all of the jobs have an equal partnership in making this a thing, that's when the tea gets spilled. I guess the short lesson of that one is just keep your ego in check. Latin Grammys is particularly fun because I feel like of the events, it has the least amount of ego. It's very familial, which means everybody's just there like, hey brother, hey man, like, oh, my friend, hug, kiss, whatever. And it's just very open, just like Latin culture is in general. I will say that one of my favorite memories is the very first event that I did. My artist, who shall remain nameless, did not realize that I spoke Portuguese. And when I first got into the car with them, they just started smack talking these other artists. And I was just like, oh, okay, whatever. And I talk to the driver tells me something, and so I turn around and I translate what the driver just said back to them, and the look of death on their face was just, oh, it was beautiful. This happened to me one other time as well. The artist that I was with made just a complete 180 and went from treating me kind of like this, you, to, oh, aren't we the bestest of best friends? And I was just like, okay, no. Lesson here, always assume everybody understands your language. Some of my favorite artists that I've worked with at Latin Grammys has got to be Paula Fernandes, Ana Victoria. They're always a pleasure. And most recently, I got to work with Taboo from the Black Eyed Peas. I learned some really cool things from him. He's definitely the most engaging person that I've ever been paired up with. I was sitting in the front seat of the limo. He's sitting right behind me, and all of a sudden he like slaps the back of my chair and he's like, hey, so what's your story? And he's just like, he's gonna force the conversation, and I just like, I love it. Then there was another moment where we went into the gift lounge, and as he's going around, he's like, hey, everybody who's working here, come over and we're gonna get one big picture, okay? And so everybody comes over, they get a big old picture with everybody together. And then afterward he said, you know, I just felt like they'd been working and they needed something fun, so I needed to make it fun for them. I'm like, dude, you're so cool. And then the third thing, I was waiting for him to come down before the main event. I had met this Brazilian couple and I just started talking to him. I had no connection to them other than the fact that we spoke Portuguese, and so we were chit-chatting back and forth. And I mentioned I was with him and they were like, ooh, we know him. And I was like, okay, I'll see if I can get him to come say hi to you guys if you go out to the front. So he comes down, and while we're waiting, I mentioned that, like, oh yeah, there goes that guy. And I was like, oh, who's that? And I was like, oh, he's just a guy that I'd had several years ago, but I don't think he remembers me. And he just looks at me, he's like, Chelsea, no, you're memorable. You're memorable. And I was like, oh, thanks, Taboo. And then we walk outside and I tell him that there's this couple that were from Brazil that I said that you might wave to them, and he's just like, oh, okay. So he walks outside and he just starts screaming, where's my Brazil? And everybody else who speaks Spanish is all like, what happening? And then the two people are like, it's us over here. And he like runs over there and he just like says hi to them, and they're like, oh my gosh, he was waiting for us. Like, it just made their whole month, year, whatever. And I just thought, you know, not only are you engaging, but you are also so over the top giving of yourself. But the thing that I loved most about him and his example was the fact that at the end of the night, he just starts talking about how excited he is because he and his wife are going to have that weekend away because they've got kids, you know? And so we're so excited we get to be like boyfriend and girlfriend for a little bit and just be like, oh, going out and just hanging out, like, because he's been working and doing a whole bunch. So he's just so excited to go and hang out with his wife. And it was just like, I really judge people based on how they talk about their spouse in a mirror. So if they talk well about their spouse, I think only high things of you. If you talk bad about your spouse, then as a mirror, I push that back on you as well. So just all good things about Taboo. Taboo, good on you. Sorry. You're awesome. For the Grammys, I've been with a couple different really cool people. I've been with Neil Diamond, Kelsey Ballerini. Most recently, I was with Adele. I didn't have a lot of interaction with her. When she got to the venue, we were coming downstairs and she was like, "Hey, are you nervous?" And I was like, "What? No, I'm not." And she's like, "Oh, because I'm always nervous at these things." I spent most of the time with her security staff, and they are top-notch people, really great people. Yeah, so that was Adele. But the person I think that I learned the most from, and then I think I'll always just keep as like a memory for me, is Bonnie Raitt. I was with her last year. She was receiving a Lifetime Achievement Award, and just so nice. I don't know if I've ever met a nicer, genuinely just pleasant person. And you can just tell she's also like really a genuine guitar player. Every time we'd walk by some random set that had guitar pedals, she'd like look down and just like admire not only the pedal but also what settings they were on and everything. I was like, you're cool. And she knew all of the upcoming artists, especially if they were guitar players or in country. She was just very encouraging. Anytime that she would talk to them and see them, she was like, "Oh yes, I'm so happy for you." And then going back to knowing that all of the jobs had the same amount of value, every person that she saw, even just like moving a piece of equipment, she would just be like, "Yeah, hey, thank you for that. I really appreciate what you're doing. You're doing a great job." She was just so genuinely nice. There was one point in time they had asked if she wanted to get her photo taken, and she was like, "Well, yeah, sure. I mean, they may not invite me back, so let's go." Like, okay. She had the greatest way of looking at everything. She was just like, I'm 70 years old and I'm up around walking on my own. It's a good day. And I was like, yeah, that's true. Funny. You're just so cute and nice, and I love you. So those were some of the major things that I've learned from my time working at these big event shows. And to really bring this home, I feel like we need a Big Jim's trail tip.
And what do you call cowboys who teach acting class? A stagecoach.
That's right. I am your stagecoach. Let's do a full recap of what we've learned today. Rule number 1. Everybody is just doing their job. Don't fan zone yourself. Number 2, keep your ego in check. Always assume that everybody speaks your language. Appreciate others and try to remember their names. And finally, make eye contact and tip your hat if you got one. I want to know who your favorite artist is and what you would tell them if you got to meet them. Until next time, my name is Chelsea Robson, and I believe in miracles. There's one more story from that time with Garth. There were so many people at this event, and I was standing against a wall, and all of a sudden I look over, and Usher is standing literally at my shoulder. And I must have made a face or something, because about 2 minutes later when he left, the guy across the way from me, he looks back and he's like, "So you and Usher, huh?" And I was like, "Oh yeah." It's just a funny story.